A demon boy band?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, totally gonna
That's
work.
Totally gonna
100%.
How can a movie with no theatrical release, a niche concept, and in brutal honesty, an imperfect story, have a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, the highest charting soundtrack of 2025, and the ability to outperform Pixar's summer blockbuster? It's not the boys or the catchy tunes only. It's creativity. I have not felt this excited about an animated movie in so long, and it's because K-Pop Demon Hunters is a work of love. Meanwhile, Elio, Pixar's latest release, is another story about a misfit finding his place among aliens. And it's not that Pixar and Disney employees aren't creative. I can almost guarantee that the most talented people work at these studios. In fact, the original director for Elio based this character on his unique childhood. It's just that Pixar increasingly makes movies that are safe for fear of losing money instead of just telling a good story. And this plan isn't even working because they're still losing money. And then they blame us because we, quote, don't show up for original ideas. But you can't say that when a movie like K-Pop Demon Hunters gained a massive fandom overnight. And both movies had limited marketing. An original idea doesn't always mean it's good, especially when you take out the original passion from it. Because Elio was changed significantly during production. K-Pop Demon Hunters' success is what can happen when you just let musicians and artists and writers be weird, and you push storytelling over money making. Even though this story, it's not perfect, and I will be spoiling it, so this is your warning now, it's creative, and I've missed this in movies. So I have to celebrate why it's so refreshing and what Pixar can learn from it. Like starting your movie off with girls jumping out of a plane, slaying a demon, and opening a sold-out concert. Huntrix, which is a K-pop group that secretly hunts demons, has really great female characters. And it's not because they're fighters, but it's because they're multifaceted. Mira, Zoe, and Rumi are fashionable pop stars and vicious warriors, and they stuff their faces with food. They feel human. And this is just proof that you are allowed to write fun, quote, strong female characters. They can have crazy boy crushes and it doesn't make them weak. This isn't as big of a problem for Pixar as it is for Disney, who tends to avoid love interests these days, especially for their tougher girls. To me, all these girls are very relatable, which is ironic because I don't sing K-pop and I don't hunt demons, but I do connect with their emotional stories. And when I think of Pixar, they used to be the king of taking unrelatable characters and making you care about them. And now it's like they try to make characters so relatable that they become kind of boring. And the samey animation style doesn't help. Unlike K-Pop Demon Hunters, which has such a creative animation style. The movie was animated by Sony Animations, which is the same studio that did Into the Spider-Verse. The style is a lot less comic-y, but it has just as much personality because they did something very risky, which is combining several tonally and artistically different animation styles in the same movie. The scenes jump from polished music videos to epic fight scenes to cutesy anime. Like, who decided to animate these tears as popcorn and have another character eat them? I'm obsessed with this choice. Just in the first scene alone, you have glamour shots in the middle of a battle, and just a few seconds ago, a chibi gremlin. This is actually really difficult to pull off so seamlessly, and they do it so well. And I think this is such a good example of pushing the boundaries of animation, especially in 3D. And so much of the animation leans into these quirky visual gags and melodrama. Like, I think you can really see this with the Saja Boys, who are the competing demon boy band to Huntrix. Like, my favorite gag was that they actually produced physical hearts that knock people out because they're just so attractive. And I don't know if they used motion capture or what with the characters, but they replicated real stage movements so perfectly. Turning Red has a similar boy band craze, but there is a lot more cringe to it. And I know that's the point because this movie is about becoming a preteen, and that is a very awkward time. And with K-Pop Demon Hunters, I won't lie, some of the scenes are like a little bit cringy, but I smiled way more because it's just so overdramatic that you cannot help but laugh. And I think that self-awareness is what makes the movie so humorous. I think best of all about this animation is that it's different from Pixar and Disney. And it's not that I don't like their animation. In fact, I think they have made incredible feats in the animation space. It's just refreshing to see something new, especially in 3D, and especially for character designs that continually have same face syndrome. The characters of K-pop Demon Hunters have beautifully designed characters that distinctly match their personality. Mira, for example, is the harsh one, so she has very sharp, angular lines, and Zoe is very bubbly, so her design is more rounded. And just look at the detail of these girls. They have Euphoria level makeup on, they have so many accessories, and they all have nail art on. Each of Rumi's nails are different. I don't know whose decision that was, but they were clearly having so much fun. Not to mention all of their outfits. I loved every single one of them, especially their military-inspired stage outfits that hint at their alter egos. And apparently this movie has the most outfit changes in an animated movie. I also love that the design of these girls are kind of cool and they're sexy and less childish. It's not something you see a lot in animation, and as someone who loves animation, but I'm now an adult, I really appreciate. And the girls are not the only characters with great designs. The boys are so fun too. The fact that you can't see Mystery Saja's face with his hair is just so ridiculous. Although I'm not sure why all the guys have noodle legs. And on top of just general character design, there is such a beautiful amount of Korean influence as well. The demons are clearly inspired by traditional Korean folk art. Same with the spirit animals. And then you have a lot of modern Korean influences like the K-pop stages, lighting, and color palettes. And not to mention the sound design. I'm telling you, someone was having an absolute blast in the sound booth, putting all these extra random sounds throughout the movie.
Let's go kill these guys.
This is what happens when people just have fun when they're working on a project. And it's also not just the sound or the characters, like every frame is so cinematic and so artistic, especially the music scenes. You can really tell that the goal was creating music videos and not just musical sequences, which is what you typically see in an animated movie. And the songs themselves are so catchy. Each song is like their own K-pop single, and they're clearly created to stand on their own. You don't actually need the context of the story to enjoy them, which I definitely think contributes to their chart success. But if you listen to them within the context of the story, the lyrics hold a lot more weight and there's a lot more double meaning to them. Soda Pop, for example, which is a super bubbly number about drinking people up because they're so sweet, becomes a lot more devious when you realize the boys want to eat everyone's souls. I really love animated musicals, but I found recent ones to just lack something. I think artistically, there's just less magic than there used to be. But this movie definitely revives that for me. Like, all of these details are so chaotic and they should not work together, but they do. And I think Pixar and Disney both need to take a little bit more risks with their animation and music. But I can't not talk about the music and animation without mentioning KDA. KDA, if you don't know, is an animated K-pop girl group of League of Legends video game characters. Released in 2020, they have a whole album and several banger songs voiced by a variety of singers like Madison Beer and singers from Twice, who is also featured on this movie's soundtrack, by the way. But if you compare the two groups, the similarities are kind of hard to ignore. They both have iridescent logos, similar character designs, they're both K-pop singers and warriors. KDA definitely does not own this aesthetic, but I would be very shocked if they did not influence it. It doesn't really matter to me though, because we got two really great pieces of art, so I'm not mad about it. And dare I say, if you have not listened to KDA, they do kill it. And they do win in a lot of aspects, but maybe that's just my nostalgia talking. I know that Riot Games, who is the creator of League of Legends, is definitely kicking themselves for not making this movie. Instead, they had to go and make Arcane Season 2, which coincidentally is also amazingly animated, but has the same writing flaw this movie has: rushed pacing. Despite how creative the design, animation, and music are, the movie is not perfect. And I think most of this is due to the short runtime, which is likely only 90 minutes because of budget reasons. And I do think if they had their way, they could have fixed a lot of these issues with just more time and resources. But at least they combat these issues with a very simplistic story. There is a clear villain, a wholesome little romance, and a journey of self-discovery. I think sometimes Pixar and also Disney, they try too hard to subvert formulaic approaches, and sometimes they muddle the story, even when they have longer runtimes. I think sometimes simplistic and formulaic can actually be a better story. And even though this story, it's not perfect, it does have a lot more fun than it has flaws. For example, the twist that Rumi, who is the lead singer of Huntrix, is secretly part demon was shocking. I did not expect that. Celine, Rumi's foster mom and also an ex-hunter, always taught Rumi to conceal her patterns, and because of hiding, she loses her voice. This is a pretty cliche premise. To find herself, she has to find her voice, raise her voice, if you will. But I do really like that Rumi can't achieve her full potential because she doesn't accept her full self. And this is also a theme that affects the rest of the group. And does Rumi even have a voice if she listens to everyone else's but her own? The power of voice is a really important theme because Huntrix's songs of hope bring people together. And to give Pixar some credit, they did get this right with Coco. The connection Huntrix ignites through song builds a shield or Hanmoon against the demon world. So back at KDA's headquarters, Rumi launches their new single Golden, because if they can produce the golden Hanmoon, they will protect the earth forever, and Rumi hopes remove her patterns. And this is a very simplistic goal. It's very wholesome. I love it. But just as voices bring us together, voices can also tear us apart. Like Gima, the demon lord, who lives off human souls and therefore their fans. Gima is such a simple villain. He's literally like a ball of fire, but I love him. It's just nice to have a personified villain again. And I think he's a really fun one because while Huntrix is the voice of hope, Gima is the voice of shame. He is the demon voice inside your head, and that is how he enslaves humans. The actual voice actor of Gima was so fantastic. He has such a great voice, which is so perfect for the whole purpose of his character.
It's funny. I thought for a moment you actually believed you could be free.
And coincidentally, he's also the demon from Squid Game. I only wish we explored this concept of internal voices and shame with more characters like Mira and Zoe. Mira is insecure about her sense of belonging. As a problem child, she was disowned by her parents and fears losing her found family. And Zoe grew up in America, so she might have some identity issues, which is, I think, hinted at given her strong people-pleasing tendencies. And I would have loved to know how these fears affected the group. We see it a little bit, but not as much or as in depth as I would have liked. So maybe this is something we can explore in future installments. But Gima has a big problem because the demons can't get him the souls he needs to live because the hunters keep killing them off. So selfish demon boy Jinu, who is now everyone's favorite Korean thirst trap, suggests attacking the hunters by stealing their fans, which is their true source of power. And they're gonna do this by way of a competing boy band. I'm sorry, but if this is not the greatest conflict setup in modern history, I don't know what is. And I truly mean that. This is such a genius concept. I know this sounds so silly, like this demon boy band fighting against this K-pop girl group. Like, what is this idea? But fans, especially K-pop fans, are some of the most loyal and ravenous forces on Earth. They could absolutely defeat or power evil given the opportunity. And there is so much drama that happens within fandoms around celebrity allegiance and which group is better. And pop stars literally are nothing without their fans. And this relationship is amplified so much with Huntrix because they need their fans to shield the world from evil, not just sell music. This conflict and this premise hooks me in. I don't even remember what the conflict was in The Good Dinosaur, which is probably why I don't remember most of the movie. The Saja Boys consists of Jinu and 4 demons as K-pop stereotypes: Mystery Saja, Romance Saja, Abby Saja, and Baby Saja. And the only thing that 4town has on them is that they have Jordan Fisher.
But I'm singing as I cry. Bye!
Other than that, though, there's really no contest. I have no doubt that if the Soja Boys actually existed, they would be ruling the world. Unfortunately, like Mira and Zoe, we don't really learn that much about the boys aside from Jinu. And I know some people didn't love this, but I actually didn't mind that they were just kept to stereotypes because I do think it would be too many characters to establish, and it does kind of play into how pop stars can be used as industry puppets because the boys are essentially zombies when they're not performing. The girls learn the guys are demons and then battle them in a bathhouse, which is a fun twist to KDA's laundromat. And this scene, again, is where you can just see the fun that the animators had. Like, I feel like someone was like, okay, here's a battle scene, go make it as epic as you want. And they did. It really reminds me of some of the epic fight scenes from The Incredibles, which is from Pixar's golden age, and when they really knew what they were doing. But then the girls fight each other on KDA's subway train because Rumi's dishonesty drives a wedge between them. Luckily, there's nothing an enemies to lovers romance can't fix, because despite unfavorable circumstances, Rumi and Jinu essentially start dating in secret. Now, I welcomed this cute romance because we don't get many these days. However, I do wish we had some more time to develop it. Rumi supposedly gives Jinu hope and a soul, and I just don't know when or why this happens. And Jinu, okay, the thing with him is that he is a demon, and I just think he's too nice to Rumi, especially in the beginning. I know that Jinu technically isn't really evil. I mean, he made this bird's hat for goodness sake, even though it was originally for the tiger. Jinu is really just a slave that wants to be free, but he is still a demon, and I do wish he had a more extreme arc around his past selfishness of betraying his family. It's just hard to see how Rumi helps him when they start out so flirty. The one selfish thing he does do is lie about his past, and Gima holds this shame over him, which leads him to betray Rumi. And then on Rumi's side of this relationship, Jinu heals her voice because she can finally be honest with him, and I also think this needed some more lead up too. It's pretty sudden, but at least we get a romance, and I will take what I can get because Elemental really didn't do it for me. Unfortunately for Rumi though, her true Evelyn self is revealed before she can build the golden shield, and I really loved this scene. Takedown, which is Huntrix's diss track about demons, becomes about Rumi, which is essentially her worst fear because it's highlighting the part of her that she's ashamed of and has always hidden. But I just love the way she looks. The hair is so cool, the glowing patterns, the nails. She really does look scared and demonic. Pixar used to do these types of emotional moments so well, and I really miss them. When Mira and Zoe disown her for lying, the Soja Boys are then free to steal everyone's souls in a massive concert. And this sequence and song was so powerful, I could probably talk about it for hours. In fact, I did have a whole section going through every single music video sequence, and I'll probably still make that video, so subscribe for that because it'll probably be the next one I make. What I will say though is that Your Idol, the song they sing here, I love how it shows the toxic relationship between pop star and fan, because the idols are fake to their fans, and the fans are parasocial with the idols. They assume the boy band is flawless when they are literally demons. And fans can be kind of cult-like, and pop stars can wield a lot of power. There is so much here to this relationship and this storytelling that can really be explored in future installments. And I think that this movie is a really good example of when a sequel is actually needed and can be beneficial. I don't think I can say the same for Lightyear or Finding Dory. And do we really need Toy Story 5? Rumi eventually appears to save the day, and I think this is probably the biggest problem I have with the movie, which is that her growth is just too sudden here. She hits rock bottom after Huntrix breakup, and Jinu sabotages her. So she confronts where her shame started, which is Celine. And Celine is a really interesting character because she's a more insidious evil. She genuinely believed hiding Rumi's patterns was the right thing to do based on what she knew about demons. But as a result, she never loved Rumi truly for who she was. And you'd think that Rumi would really have to think about that. Would Rumi even be ashamed of who she was if Celine supported her from the beginning? But she just accepts herself pretty quickly, despite having a pretty massive breakdown a couple minutes ago. I think for a movie about shame, they don't really show how to come to terms with or cope with it. That said, I was still emotionally invested in Rumi's story and in this whole movie, which is a lot more than I can say for a movie like Onward. The end is very sweet. Rumi brings the group together and the fans by finally accepting her true self. Her patterns remain visible and become a new part of her. It's okay to not be perfect. Jinu also saves Rumi from a death blow from Gima and gives her his soul and then dies. And I do have a little bit of a critique with this action too, because while I like that he sacrifices himself because this is a selfless act, very different from his selfish past. It would have been cool if he also saved a family instead of dooming one like he did in the past, which is why I think Jinu should have given his soul to the Saja boys instead. Because I don't even think Rumi needs his soul. Doesn't she have her own soul? Like, I think it would have been really cool if at first Jinu was just using the boys because he's selfish, but over time ends up bonding with them. And that would present a more interesting dilemma. If he doesn't defeat Huntrix, he'd let down another family. But if he does, he'd lose Rumi. Rather than just losing out on his own personal gain of not erasing his shameful memories, which is how he's lived for 400 years anyway. Because it is hinted at that not all demons are bad. Many are just imprisoned by Gima. Maybe that's true for the Saja boys. I am just very curious how they're going to revive Jinu because he has no soul now. I mean, how on earth are they going to write their way out of that one for a sequel? Because there is no way that he will not be in it, trust me. The finale reflects the power of song and how it can bring people together and inspire hope, and they rebuild the shield stronger than ever. Most notably, it is rainbow and not gold, which I think is very fitting because gold was always this sort of idealistic dream that could never be achieved, and rainbow embraces a lot more colors and diversity, more accepting for someone like Rumi. I think this is such a cute story about love and friendship and hope and connection and self-acceptance. I know it's simple, I know it's a bit predictable, but it doesn't matter to me because it's done quite well. And there are so many other creative elements of the movie that I don't really think many of these flaws matter that much. My philosophy is that I really don't think it matters how weird or niche your story is. If you have the passion to tell it well, I think most audiences will like it. I think a lot of people, including me, did not know that much about K-pop going into this movie and are now fully obsessed with this movie. And I think that's why we need to have people who understand the art of story in the room versus people who only think that mass market ideas are worth telling. And this used to be Pixar. I miss when their movies had talking toys and animals that explored really mature themes. Huge props to Sony because they seem to be one of the only studios that is allowing artists to prioritize creativity and storytelling for the sake of just having fun. I hope we get more movies like this. Even with all of the story gaps, I do think it deserves success. What was your favorite part of K-pop Demon Hunters? Make sure you stream Huntrix and the Saja Boys and also KDA. I might make a follow-up one if you want it, so stay tuned for that. Have a lovely night and a beautiful day, and thank you so much for watching.